So, The Meg, directed by John Turteltaub, is a review that is in many ways 21 years in the making for me, because what you guys may or may not have remembered me mentioning before, especially on my podcast, is I've actually read the book that this is adapted from, the book, of course, written by Steve Alten. So, you know, the way there is like comic book fans like Kevin Smith that were speculating for years what a Frank Miller Batman movie would look like before any of us even knew what serious superhero movies were. I believe he wanted Clint Eastwood to play the role as well. That's how long ago this speculation was by Kevin Smith. Well, for me, The Meg is my Batman adaptation. I've been following the development hell of this movie for probably 20 years, and listen, this isn't going to be a review of bitching about what they got wrong from the book. For one, this book wasn't The Catcher and the Rye. It was never a great literary novel, but what it was great trash, and there was enough material certainly to make a great blockbuster. Now, I am under absolutely no illusions why this movie got greenlit now. There is now this kind of subculture of shark movie enthusiasts who really seem to get joy from watching terrible movies, you know, the ones that are so bad they are good, that kind of movie. Now, I can't really tell from my end if the appeal is to snigger at these movies or if there is a genuine kind of affection for these movies. Maybe it's a bit of both. I don't know. I am personally completely out of the loop with the shark movie genre enthusiasts. Movies like Sharknado and Ghost Shark and so on. I have to also say that I've never seen either of those movies in full. I've just seen clips, or I've caught a bit of Sharknado on TV. So I can't judge the quality of those movies in any case. I will say, though, the concept of Sharknado sounds amazing to me, which goes as follows. When a freak hurricane swamps Los Angeles, nature's deadliest killer rules sea, land and air as thousands of sharks terrorize the waterlogged populace. And admittedly, again, I haven't seen the movie in its entirety, but the movie is listed as an action-adventure comedy. But I don't like movies that aim to be so bad they are good. I like movies that aim to be good, but they are so bad they end up being good. There is a difference of intent that makes such a difference to my enjoyment, at least, with these movies. And I don't like movies either that are almost ashamed of their premise and kind of lean into and commit to the fact that they think it's bad and filter it into every other aspect of the movie. They don't try because they presume people are going to find it too ridiculous, so we can all sit around together and laugh at how terrible it is. I mean, taking the premise of Sharknado again, for instance, I would absolutely love to see that concept given the care it deserves and taken a bit more seriously. And I'm not talking about a Dark Knight level of seriousness, just a little bit more effort and care in your movie. Like, take for instance the concept of Jurassic Park, a theme park for prehistoric dinosaurs. I mean, if that movie was greenlit for the first time today, chances are it would lean into the silliness of that genre and laugh at its own concept, and therefore spend the whole movie laughing at itself. And I understand I'm looking for something different to maybe what the movie is and what other people want. Again, I'm not looking for the Dark Knight approach to everything, but if you are going to make a movie about a giant prehistoric shark, don't presume because that's your concept you have to spend the whole movie just laughing over the film. Oh, look at us. Yeah, can you believe we are making this? I know type of thing. I mean, it's not on. And even though I'm not a fan of them in general, I think the Marvel movies do it quite well. They're not laughing at how ridiculous it is to have people going around in tights and raccoons and big green monsters, but they are still making plenty of jokes, you know? So with the Meg, unfortunately, my worst fears were confirmed, and they did lean into laughing all the way. Look at us, can you believe we are making this movie? Ha ha ha, I know. Which is an even bigger problem in this movie for a number of reasons, because at least when you know the movie is going to be that, I can settle down and try to enjoy it for what it is. Like, for instance, Rampage starring The Rock is a good example of it done well. Again, I didn't really like the movie, and I wish they didn't go down that route and have cartoon villains. But at least, you know, I could settle down, watch it for what it was. And to be fair, Rampage also had the charisma of The Rock and good action sequences. The Meg, unfortunately, had neither. But the Meg also has the audacity to try and give us heartfelt moments when characters die. Like, they totally try and change tone in those moments before leaning into something like stupid hair jokes in the next scene. It really doesn't work like that. If you're going to a Shark Week movie, just stick to that. Don't try and throw other things into the mix. Michael Lennon, a film critic I have a podcast with called Around the World in 80 Movies, plug, has said to me that to him, Jason Statham is basically a joke and a Chuck Norris. But you know, one man's Arnie is another man's Chuck Norris. I think with those type of stars, Steven Seagal, Van Damme, you know, all of them are not really good actors anyway. So you gravitate to something about them that replaces their limitations. And with somebody like Arnie, it's his charisma and his physique. I don't think Jason Statham is a Chuck Norris either. I enjoy his action movies, especially the ones that rely on his physicality, and he's kind of gruff, you know, I gotta get the fucking job done. But this movie strips him of that asset, and it does play into his weakness when he actually has to do acting scenes. And it's an actual toss-up between him and this cringy child actress who is equally as bad. I mean, I like Statham when he is used right. This movie, he was mostly cast because we could laugh all over how bad Jason Statham is as well. You know, Jason Statham versus a shark. Can you imagine we were making this movie? I know. It just makes no effort to utilize anything that is good about him and how characters talk to each other, lines of dialogue, those kind of stupid scenes, you know, the ones where I probably could escape, but you know, it's my time to sacrifice myself now. It's like the director watched a load of action movies and kept on putting the ingredients of those action movies and best bits into a sieve, so none of the context or carefulness or consideration from those movies where this type of stuff is done well in is left. It's like all behavior, dialogue and scenes in this movie are basically void of context. The film kind of presumes we will tap into it because other movies have done the hard work for us. So we are meant to care about a father being tough on his daughter despite the movie devoting no time for it or giving no indication that is even their relationship, because we have seen scenes devoted to that type of thing in other movies, you know, that type of muck. I've mentioned Statham is a limited actor. A lot of the cast are basically extremely limited as well. Lee Bing, Ruby Rose, Paige Kennedy, it's all just worst of the worst, really. Nothing actors. I feel sorry for Cliff Curtis, actually, the only real good actor among the lot, who was probably wondering what the hell he got himself into, to be honest. It's fascinating seeing him try to make the best of a bad situation. But worst of all of this, and all of what I mentioned could have been forgiven if at least it had a few blockbuster sequences like Rampage. But this director, John Turteltaub, is totally found out at this level. He is a nothing director as well, basically. Directed Cool Runnings, Three Ninjas, National Treasure. He has a terrible pedigree for spectacle, no track record. And I was worried when I saw his name attached anyway, to be honest. And again, Michael Lennon, who I reference quite a lot, we were talking about the latest Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom recently, and he's much more astute and inclined towards the craft of visuals than me, whereas for me, I'm much more monolithic when it comes to filmmaking. Visuals work for me only if it works in tandem with the film. I'm not really able to appreciate individual things about a film a lot of the time unless it's combined with something else that is working within the film. Like, I'll only care about action shootouts and scenes if I care and I am invested in the characters. Otherwise, I don't care how well the scene is choreographed. It will just do absolutely nothing for me. And I'll only care about a blockbuster set piece if I'm ultimately enjoying the film. Whereas he is much better than me at kind of putting the elements of film in separate rooms almost, and appreciating them almost as somebody who is looking at separate paintings in a gallery. But my point to that was, he was talking about how well the set pieces and the moments of spectacle in Fallen Kingdom are done. And I mentioned it a little in my review, that at least there was spectacle. But like I said, I'm monolithic almost in my film criticism at times, like I said. So I couldn't appreciate them because they were built on a film that was absolutely terrible. Well, let me just say, after watching The Meg, I am now able to appreciate set pieces like the ones in Fallen Kingdom when they are done well a lot more, because the biggest crime The Meg commits is that its action is actually horrendous. First of all, The Meg looks like a shark from fucking Shark Tale. Awful CGI. Secondly, it moves with all the grace of the rubber shark from the 1960s Batman movie. The director does a terrible job at giving us proper scale in staging set pieces. the conception and direction of how to shoot this prehistoric shark, how it will move in the water, what to show, when to show it, terrible. All terrible. And it's fascinating for somebody like me who takes these kind of things for granted and only really able to give it credit in a movie done well. But to watch a blockbuster with a director that's totally out of his depth trying to do it, I have to say I do appreciate it a bit more now when set pieces in other movies like The Last Star Wars and The Fallen Kingdom, I do appreciate them a lot more now as isolated sequences that were very well done, because it absolutely is shocking for me to see something like this when you have at the very least a big prehistoric killer machine unleashed on the oceans. To have the set pieces, the sense of spectacle, the directing to be so underwhelming, that's the worst part about this movie, and that's the main reason why you can all avoid The Meg, at least until I buy the film rights and remake it myself.